You might want to sit down because this is a doozy. Meghan Markle has finally revealed why she and Prince Harry call each other M and H. What could it be? A mystery for the ages.
Meghan Markle's return to the spotlight through Hollywood was never meant to be simple. But this week, things took a sharp and painful turn, one that reveals just how steep her climb toward media relevance has become. On the surface, her Netflix deal looked like a dream come true. After leaving royal life behind and stepping into a storm of global headlines alongside Prince Harry, the couple landed what was hailed as a groundbreaking, multi-million-dollar content pact. But that dream, it faded far quicker than anyone imagined. And now, in what sources whisper felt like a last-ditch effort, Meghan's team attempted a surprise comeback using The Late Show with Stephen Colbert as a dramatic stage to breathe life back into a series that's slowly slipping away.
I assumed it was for the obvious reason. M is the 13th letter of the alphabet, and H is the 8th letter of the alphabet. 8 plus 13 is 21. 21 was Deion Sanders' number, and Deion Sanders' nickname was Neon Dion.
Only to be turned away by Colbert himself in what sources are calling one of the coldest shutdowns in recent memory. What started as a last-minute attempt to spark interest in her underperforming Netflix show quickly spiraled into a full-blown PR disaster. Meghan's team, reportedly uninvited and stepping far outside the lines of standard protocol, tried to enter the CBS studios in New York just moments before Colbert's taping. They weren't on the schedule. They weren't confirmed. This wasn't some innocent mix-up, it was a calculated move, likely fueled by growing panic behind the scenes. But instead of embracing the former royal, Colbert personally stepped in. Studio insiders say he gave a direct order to his crew. Meghan was not to appear. Not on stage, not backstage, not at all. The message couldn't have been clearer, no cameo, no promotion, no favors. And what made it sting even more was who delivered it. Stephen Colbert, a host known for his openness and willingness to welcome complex, even controversial figures, drew a firm line. This time, there was no room for compromise. The rejection didn't come from a producer or PR rep, it came from Colbert himself. One insider close to the moment said he saw Meghan's surprise attempt not as ambition, but as a violation of trust, a bold PR grab that crossed a professional line.
Harry, at the moment, let's talk about today's story. He's over there, I think he's in Angola, isn't it? He's in Africa, following in his mother's footsteps.
Again.
Princess Diana, of course, the late, great Diana, you know, whose great cause célèbre was landmines in Africa. There's so many there, people get blown up, they're underneath the...
It wasn't just inappropriate, it was unwelcome. And the timing couldn't have been worse. Colbert's own career is nearing a major turning point. And instead of letting his final season get swept up in celebrity drama, he seems to be choosing a more intentional, focused farewell. Not long after the Meghan incident, he revealed he'll be stepping away from The Late Show in May 2026. While no official link has been drawn between the two events, industry insiders believe it's hardly a coincidence. Colbert's team is said to be tightening editorial control in the run-up to his departure. And Meghan Markle, whose name now stirs as much backlash as buzz, just doesn't fit the tone he wants to close out on.
The reason he's there is he's reminding the world of his close connection to Diana, his mother, a money-spinning connection. This is what they have traded on. He has traded on his mother's memory ever since Megxit, ever since he went to America. Do you suspect the same as me?
Yeah, the fallout from this backstage moment was immediate and impossible to ignore. Meghan's team tried to reshape the story, calling it a simple scheduling mix-up. Some corners of the internet even floated claims that she had been invited, and that her appearance was pulled last minute due to timing. But those explanations didn't hold for long. Quiet confirmations from CBS insiders made the truth clear. Meghan was never on the guest list. No segment, no approval, no pitch ever accepted. She didn't have a spot, she just arrived. Or more accurately, her team did, without permission. The gamble? That Colbert might offer a spontaneous moment of mention, a wave, maybe even a kind word. But instead, she was quietly shown the door, off camera, out of frame, and very much unwelcome.
Since stepping back as a working member of the British royal family, and he's latching on to his mother's memory and legacy, trying to regain any sort of popularity whatsoever. He has lived the high life as behind the Queen, one of the most popular.
Netflix executives were already losing patience. Meghan's series launched with polished press releases and a wave of carefully managed, but has quietly faded into the background. From day one, audience engagement was underwhelming. Critics slammed it as tone-deaf, sluggish, and creatively empty. Even her most devoted supporters found it hard to defend. And now, with Colbert's rejection rippling through the industry, the atmosphere at Netflix has reportedly shifted from quiet frustration to full-on damage control. Behind closed doors, there's real talk about whether a second season should even happen. And that's the harsh, unvarnished truth.
Inspired by his mother's work, rallying around community leaders to try to create entire strategies around how they can eliminate the homeless crisis in certain areas. Harry just looks at his mom's schedule from 1996 and says, I'm just...
Behind the shimmer of Hollywood deals and the illusion of celebrity power, television, especially in the streaming world, is still a numbers game, and Meghan Markle just hasn't delivered. Inside Netflix, quiet leaks have started to surface performance. Reviews that reveal how far her series has fallen below expectations. Whispers suggest that key benchmarks for storytelling and production quality were never truly met. Some scenes had to be reshot again and again, with creative direction shifting from episode to episode. Others were riddled with continuity errors, struggling to find any real thematic thread.
Harry, specifically didn't want Meghan on this trip to Africa. Talk about that. Why was that?
Well, let me look at that quote again, because remember how I said this quote out loud from the Daily Mail, and you shivered in my presence. Harry didn't want Meghan there. I mean, it's a very cold quote coming from one.
The result was a muddled product, one that failed to resonate with any real audience. So, when Colbert declined to take part in the promotional push, it wasn't just a missed media slot. It was a quiet rejection of the entire brand. A brand that now feels inflated, directionless, and poorly managed. Meghan Markle's name, once tied to reinvention, disruption, and a new kind of royalty, now draws uneasy sighs in entertainment boardrooms. To executives, she's no longer seen as a headline maker. She's a liability. And the fact that her team tried such a desperate maneuver on Colbert's stage, it says everything. There was no backup plan, no strategy waiting in the wings, just a last chance move with nowhere left to land.
Hashtag blessed. I think that we're seeing him try to brand himself away from her as well.
It's interesting that. Let's talk a little bit about this peace deal, or these peace talks, all over the papers over the weekend here in Britain, and it wasn't.
And there was no faith left in the content itself. Just a desperate hope that a well-known talk show host might offer a lifeline, but that lifeline never came. Instead, what followed was the sting of being shut out from one of America's biggest late-night stages, adding yet another blow to an already growing list of public stumbles. This wasn't just a minor miscalculation. It was a revealing moment, a loud signal that Meghan Markle's Hollywood narrative is slipping from her grasp. Colbert's refusal wasn't personal, it was professional, sharp, unmistakably public. Behind the scenes, Netflix executives had already begun raising quiet alarms during post-production of Season 1. The early footage told the story. It lacked flow. It lacked clarity. Editors were left trying to salvage episodes that wandered aimlessly, shifting topics with no real focus to anchor them.
Thing was supposed to be Meredith May flies in quietly, secretly.
None of us know who she is, but somehow somebody need to take a photo of this.
Well, look, it's supposed to be secret, and suddenly all over the front page of a newspaper in the Mail on Sunday, there's her getting out of the taxi after flying in from California.
The creative vision Meghan originally pitched introspective, empowering, deeply personal ended up feeling hollow, overscripted, and painfully forced. It didn't take long for Netflix's quality control team to start raising concerns. 1. Producer, who worked on the edges of the project, put it plainly, it looked polished from afar, but up close it was just empty gloss. Even more troubling was the response from test audiences. In private screenings before the release, reactions ranged from lukewarm silence to outright criticism. Viewers called the tone self-important, the content repetitive, and Meghan as a host cold and disconnected. The very element that was supposed to make the series shine Meghan herself was, according to internal feedback, becoming its greatest weakness.
They are famously discreet. So who do you think it might have been?
Well, Prince Harry has come out and said it's not, in true Shaggy form, it wasn't me. Although I don't believe him. I don't believe him in this scenario. I think that the only team that has anything to gain.
Audience retention took a nosedive just minutes into most episodes dropping off sharply before the story had a chance to unfold. For Netflix, celebrity-driven disappointments aren't new. But Meghan's case is different. Her deal wasn't a one-season experiment. It was a long-term development partnership, loaded with high expectations and multi-year financial commitments. Netflix didn't just back a show, they backed Meghan's promise to build and carry a fresh, original media brand. And so far, that gamble hasn't paid off. As work on season 2 kicked off, the cracks only widened, scripts felt rushed, creative direction was scattered, and what should have been a course correction began to look more like a continuation of the same unraveling story.
The press off. Now let's put the case. I kind of agree with you. It was either Harry or Meghan or both of them. It may have had something to do with their PR chief, Meredith Maines. Whoever it was, it's from the Sussex side of the fence, I think we can presume.
Meghan's creative team struggled to shape her vision into structured, watchable episodes. Someone close to the production revealed that outlines were often tossed mid-development, only to be rewritten just days before cameras rolled. The process wasn't just messy, it was exhausting. The constant last-minute changes made the entire workflow feel unsustainable. Production crews faced repeated delays, waiting on approvals that came late or were overturned by sudden rewrites. Meghan, deeply involved in post-production, reportedly micromanaged the editing process so tightly that progress had to pause for days while teams awaited her feedback. And when those notes finally came in, they often clashed with her earlier directions, sending the edit into yet another loop of confusion.
And didn't appreciate finding out about it at the same time you and I did in the Daily Mail, you know?
Wow.
So it's created a lot of animosity all over the place. The king feels betrayed because obviously he knew that this discussion was happening, and William...
One editor summed it up best. We were basically building the plane while flying it. The pilot kept changing the blueprint midter. That chaos came at a cost. Inefficiencies turned into budget overruns and missed deadlines. And while most platforms can tolerate some creative delays, Netflix was already under pressure, shareholders and subscribers demanding results, not excuses. The patience they'd shown Meghan during season 1 had run out. Executives who once backed her enthusiastically were now forced to defend her against skeptical board members and grim data reports. The numbers didn't lie, the return wasn't there. The audience wasn't showing up, and perhaps most painfully of all, the content simply wasn't good. Netflix's internal review teams knew it.
The lighting for a school play, when she wasn't able to star in the school play, and when he went ahead and did the lighting, she had a screaming match with him and moved out.
Wow.
She was so jealous that she wasn't in...
Netflix's internal review teams tasked with evaluating creative performance across the platform had already labeled Meghan's show as high risk heading into 2025. That classification is typically reserved for experimental projects, legally sensitive documentaries, or pilot episodes that fall short of platform standards. For a series tied to one of the most recognizable public figures of the decade, it was an unprecedented drop in confidence. And yet, Meghan's team seemed unaware of just how precarious things had become. Even after season 1 staggered across, The finish line, her camp continued to project confidence-giving interviews, attending events, speaking of creative freedom, rich storytelling, and uplifting new voices. But behind the scenes, those voices never truly emerged. The show leaned almost entirely on Meghan herself, often overwhelmingly so. What was meant to amplify others slowly became a mirror, reflecting her own story, her lens, her struggle. And that self-focused format didn't just push away collaborators, it distanced the very audience it aimed to inspire.